Omnichannel. It's a word that's been tossed around retail for more than a decade, and one that gained traction as brick and mortar retailers sought to manage the expanding impact of online shopping throughout the early years of the 21st century. But what is the state of omnichannel today, and how are retailers balancing their store efforts with their efforts in the digital world? Welcome to Store Brand Spotlight. I'm Greg Sleater, Executive Editor of Store Brands. Joining me to talk more about omnichannel is Sherry Smith, Executive Managing Director for the Americas at Criteo. Sherry and I will discuss the current state of omnichannel and some of the more notable findings in a recent report from the topic from Criteo. Sherry, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you, Sherry, and it's a fascinating conversation. We talk about the current state of retail and that balance between brick and mortar and digital, and how consumers seemingly of just about every age use both tools to their advantage, and as they shop. So it's an interesting conversation, and one I look forward to having with you. Sherry, has mentioned, Criteo's recent report took a deep dive into omnichannel. Can you highlight just a couple of key trends from that research, and what are some of the things retailers should be paying close attention to?
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. Well, just a little bit of background about Criteo for those that maybe don't know us as well. We are the leader in commerce media, and we work with over 225 retailers and more than 3,500 brands. So we've got a pretty expansive reach, and that's across all of Americas, EMEA, as well as APAC. And we leverage that large scale data and intelligence to deliver just more of these richer consumer experiences. That's a bit about us. We did conduct a Criteo CSI study, and that really looked at consumers and more of their intent and how they're thinking about media. And we always couple that with what we're seeing from retailers. And just, a couple interesting stats in light of the omnichannel subject. One of the things that we found is that consumers, shoppers in particular, are looking at omni-channel purchases on a regular basis for their groceries. In fact, 27% are looking at omni-channel options, and 26% in apparel. So many often are going online, even for some of your simple everyday items, to research and then purchasing in store, and using online as a point of discovery while transacting more so in store. And so that is a big key finding that we see that continues both this online and in-store experience. And it's so important to have fluidity in how you're talking to those customers, thinking about the way that they're interacting with a retailer, with an online e-commerce site. And then also too, of course, the growing use of AI and automation. And so we are seeing more and more trends continuing to take place there, and more confidence in AI and capabilities to drive personalization and to help with purchasing decisions. And our study found that AI is poised to impact about 53% of US purchasing decisions in the coming years. And so exciting to see as you think about the shopping tools and the capabilities, and even the way that you can leverage creative, whether you're a brand, you're a retailer, an online marketer, or marketplace, to really think about that omni-channel experience and how to best engage with their customers. So,
anytime there's a consumer survey, there's things that don't surprise us and things that are surprising. Anything jump out at you as something maybe you didn't expect in that report?
I think the trust in AI, and how rapidly that is continuing to really shift. And I think it's so important that I think retailers are on the path of understanding how important the omni-channel approach is, and really to that personalization. But to me, I think the adoption that we're seeing, or the willingness for consumers to really trust AI to understand their needs better, I think that over the coming years, and we saw this in our study, you're going to see that that jump significantly in the next 1 to 2 years, and that those personalization recommendations becoming more and more consistent with those consumers, and helping consumers better shop and engage. And so, I think we're seeing upwards of 90+% of shoppers expecting AI to really help them on their purchase journey. And so, while I expected it to jump, that was a trend for me that was a bit surprising.
Yeah, that's interesting because I wonder. I think I would have wondered ahead of this report how many consumers really knew that AI was working in the background. And then maybe they're better educated on it than I give them credit for, because sometimes consumers are the last to know
Yeah.
about things. So that's interesting. And we'll touch on AI a little later in the podcast, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
Sherry, when we look at that balance between the digital tools that consumers have, the stores are still obviously of major importance. And maybe 15 years ago, there was some thought that stores were going to just go away, and clearly they haven't. But how has the evolution been for consumers and how they use digital and stores kind of together to, premiumize their shopping experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that even as I like to think of Best Buy as a client of ours, and they've been in the space for some time, and really have continued to outshine. If you think about the potential of retailers going away, to your point, not only did they not go away, they found a real niche for themselves in the marketplace. And I think that they did that really well by blending offline and online. Both, you think about, if you're going to go and purchase a TV, or you're going to go for an appliance, you're going to go online and research that. And most often, you're going to start at the retailer and really dive in, and then actually go into that store for that purchase decision. And when you think about Best Buy Ads and what they've been doing to further innovate and drive their total program, they really have a front end experience that allows the marketers, and ultimately that translates to the consumers, to think about that total buying journey from start all the way to finish, whether that's on social sites, or that's on their own site, or that's through offline advertising, that's through retargeting. The whole ecosystem is designed. They blend their offline data with their in-store data. That's a big piece too, and not thinking about it as bifurcated. So I think the most notable retailers and those that are winning in the space are thinking about it just like that, where it's not as, these specific different channels, but more so, how do you think about that consumer from end to end? And that, from a marketer's standpoint, how you engage from end to end to touch that customer.
And it's interesting you say that, because it makes me think of myself as a consumer. Put my consumer hat on for a second, where if I'm looking at an item, 9 out of 10 times I do start at the retailer. And I do think the retailers do a much better job at how they provide that information, where it's got a little bit of a sales feel to it, but there's so much basic information on the product. And the way you can compare things
Yeah.
is much better than the brands do it.
Well, I think if you even think about, this is an area that we specialize in, but even as you think about product recommendations or sponsored products, when you go onto a site, if somebody is doing it really well, it's a very seamless. It's not as if you're being marketed to. You've got an engine that's powering that behind it to say, this is the most relevant thing to serve up to that customer at this time. And so if you are on a Best Buy, you will see a recommendation for a TV unit that may be an advertiser, and it is noting that it's an advertiser, but it's so blended and native into the experience of the customer. And if you're serving it up right, and if you're doing that based off of what they're actually searching for, and delivering it at the right time, in the right place, in the right location, the trust is there. And it just continues all the way through. And I think, I think that from a search perspective, there's a continuing and growing opportunity there to see that continue to grow, and help customers on that buying decision, that buying path.
One of the stats that jumped out at me in the report, and I would love to tell sort of the reporter of 2014 me that this would be the stat in 2025, it was that 78% of shoppers still rely on stores to see and try products. Again, you get all the sort of doomsday naysayers who come out and go, we're not going to have any more stores. And while we all rolled our eyes at that, it's interesting to see 8 in 10 people are still using the stores. And Gen Z is driving a lot of that. Gen Z likes to go out and shop. But When you look at this and you see that, and as a retailer, how can they optimize in store while integrating digital touch points to really serve the consumer?
It's interesting that you brought that up about Gen Z as well. I know with my kids, they they like going in store, um, and I think that's going to continue to be a growing trend. And I think those retailers are doing it really well are also meeting the needs of convenience. So, I'll give another example, whether it's a Walmart with Walmart Plus. Not only do they have the in-store and the vast selection, as well as the online and their marketplaces, which is vast and dominant, they have their immediacy with shipping. And so you've got your option. You can go pick it up in store and you can get it within hours, or you can have it delivered to your house, within a certain period of time, or you can go into the store. And so I know that those retailers that are doing it well, and they don't have to all be powering it themselves. They can have different partners that they're working with via, an Uber or an Instacart or whatever it might be. They're giving choice, and they're giving options, and they're giving that immediacy, but they're also providing that opportunity for those products that maybe you want to go in, you want to feel, you want to touch, you want to see, or you want that you're actually going to be going in for your grocery trip and you might want to check out that product. I think retailers are doing it well, are offering choice.
Right. That kind of rolls into the next question in terms of the strategies that retailers have used that have been most effective. You just mentioned choice, but are there others that retailers are using to ensure what really is a seamless omnichannel shopping experience?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think just to dive down a little bit, I think when you think about online, and again, if you're thinking about it as very separate, for quite some time we were measuring. We've been in this space for a while, and I would say it's been over the last couple years that we've been able to look at offline data, meaning the in-store data. And with 80% of the purchase decisions being made in store, if you don't have that data to be able to tie to what's happening online, you get a bad experience. You get a customer, maybe they already bought, or they're not in the market, or you're missing somebody that was in the market, or you don't know if that transaction actually ever happened. And so for the past couple of years, that has been what I would say is RMNs, or retail media networks, continue to build. You are seeing more of this combination of data of not just those online transactions, but those in-store transactions coming together. So you can look at that customer journey all the way across. And it sounds simple, but it hasn't been. It's been something that's been over the past 2 years. And what that means is that better experience all the way through, as well as more of a story for marketers that are looking to drive incremental ad sales, or they're looking to make sure that they've got that right return on their ad investment. So from a consumer perspective, it's good because you know me, show me you know me, and I trust you, and I want to buy with you. And from a marketer experience, they get to see the whole picture and not just a slice.
From a generational standpoint, we touched on Gen Z a few minutes ago. Are there major differences in how the different generations omni-channel shop?
I think if I would go back to it, I think that more choice is there. You think about those that are Gen Z, or grown up in a world that it is immediate. There is, and they are very fluid when it comes to online and research and social. So I would say that, social is a very big component of that, and ensuring that, you're not, it's a multi-pronged strategy. While consumers especially Gen Z, are going to sites, they also too are leveraging influencers. They're leveraging social channels. And so it's so important that retailers are thinking about their customers at the various, ages, and how they shop, and making sure that, it's not just one channel meets all. I would say, certainly going to the retail and researching there is a big piece of that. But you've got to have something that is really multifaceted and thinking about, that the way that the Gen Z is shopping.
You mentioned your children who are Gen Z. I have two Gen Zers, and what I find interesting is when sort of my life rolls into itself from reporter of retail versus parent, the stuff that they've taught me about social media. And at first, I was very skeptical about something like TikTok, where it's just going to be another pool of whatever. But there's so much information on there, and there's so many things you can learn, and how retailers are using TikTok to just inform you about what's in store and what a product is or whatever, that it becomes educational.
Oh, yeah.
So in almost a backwards way, they've taught me things, which I find fascinating.
Oh, my daughter is the one that got me on TikTok, and now you can go on. And what I love about it, what I personally love about it, is the algorithm that knows exactly what I want to see and what I don't want to see, and that ability to have that choice, but also too the inspiration that comes from that. She right now is looking at a Nancy Meyers aesthetic, and so you may or may not know what that is. I'm very well aware of what that is, and you'll get TikTokers that will say, "Here's how you can achieve that aesthetic on a budget," and at Walmart, and they're very much influenced by what they're seeing from those influencers, but in a way that is short, concise, to the point, and tied back to that retailer for the point of purchase. So, yeah, it's been fun. They constantly are teaching me new things and laughing at me about what I do and don't know, and it's humbling.
So speaking of technology, we touched on two things kind of briefly: retail media networks and AI.
Mhm.
And those two are seemingly paralleling each other as they grow in influence at retail. How are those technologies, or maybe others, bridging the gap between the online and offline shopping that consumers are doing today?
I would say with AI driven solutions, they're helping marketers, they're helping brands with that customer journey, and they're ensuring that there is a consistency in the engagement, which is leading to higher conversions. And so I think that, from our perspective, we're helping lead that shift. We're helping brands monetize that traffic and make sure that everything is very, very hyper relevant. And AI is what powers everything, that we do. And we're continuing to improve upon those models. And I think that again, when done right from an omni-channel experience, you can reduce friction and you could really ease the buying process when you aren't thinking about it in terms of I've got to do this to do this or this to do this or this, because every consumer is different and every journey is different, not only for that consumer, but also to even for the categories that they're buying. Or, yeah, you think about the different generational, that's different. And so I think it's really got to be more about, utilizing data points, utilizing research, utilizing AI, and all of those coming together so that it's very cohesive and it's frictionless.
And as we look at the store side of this today, as we mentioned, 78% of consumers are still shopping the stores, and there's still a lot of them out there. With this in mind, how do you see the role of physical retail evolving over the next few years, in what will really be, a digital focused world in many aspects?
Yeah, I think that we've talked a bit about social and their own sites, and then even thinking about their data and offsite media and driving customers back. So I think from an online to offline perspective, I think the stores are getting there. I think when you think about choice, the stores are getting there. And being able to meet that need, however they want to buy it, whenever they want to buy it. And I know I use all of those means to buy. Um, In fact, Target, I'm deciding right now if I want to actually go to a Target store to pick up, or if I actually want the convenience of having it shipped. Because I know when I get to Target, I'm going to spend another $300. I don't need to do that. So I have that choice. I think that for stores, when you think about their brick and mortar, they have more that they're monetizing beyond that. They have their own in-store TV networks, their radio, they've got their POS materials that they're leveraging. They also, too, are thinking about their shopper marketing dollars and how they're pulling that through with their trade investments. And I think that we're going to see more, even their in-store events. You think about Costco or a Sam's Club and the sampling that we all love. I think we're going to see more and more of that come to fruition when you think about true brick and mortar. And how do all of those things play? They're kind of late in the game. They will be later in the game. I think some are attempting to do that. But really, the main focus right now is what's happening between the omni But I think brick and mortar, that's going to be the next phase.